Ah, Halloween. Some argue it's the greatest holiday of the year. Some say it's a satanic day full of Satanism, Satanists, and Satan, believe it or not. So, how did such a day full of strange traditions and macabre superstitions come to be?
Traces of what we know of as modern Halloween can be found all over Europe. For some denominations of the Catholic Church, it was known as All Saints' Day. In the British Isles, it was known as All Hallows' Eve. And in Scotland, All Hallows' Even, for some reason. That's actually where we get the "een" at the end of Halloween. It's also known as Allowmass in Ye Olde English, as can be seen in Shakespeare's Two Gentlemen of Verona, when Speed, thanks Mom for the name, says,
"To speak puling, whining, like a beggar at Hallowmass."
In ancient Rome, Halloween is related to two celebrations. The first being the Feast of Pomona, the goddess of fruit. They had a fruit goddess. Are we serious? Ever see? Is that real? Fruit? Okay, a goddess specifically assigned to fruit. That must be a fun conversation point at the God High School reunion, huh?
Ooh, and what do you do?
Oh, you know, god of war and defender of the borders of the empire. How about you?
Oh, you know, the goddess of fruit. You know, apples and shit.
Huh.
The ancient Romans had another celebration called Parentalia, which was a festival of the dead. But it was on February 13th, so I don't know.
But before all those names were assigned to the celebration, way back 5,000 years ago, possibly even before the Celts even lived in Ireland, the festival was known by the name of Samhain. No, not Samhain. Samhain, or Samhain, or Samhain, or Samhain, but never Samhain, you f***ing heathens.
According to 1st century Irish mythology, the story called the Mooing of Ymir. What? Oh, I'm sorry. The Wooing of Ymir. Sorry. Yeah. The 1st century tale, The Wooing of Ymir, also known by its original name, Tach Ymir, in which the female hero Ymir declares that Samhain is the day when summer goes to rest. Ooh.
Samhain was the day that marked the changeover from summer to winter, a time to start worrying about food inventory and pulling out the heavy blankets. How prepared were they for winter? How screwed were they? Would the deadly cold of winter one day end and bring back the sun? Or would they forever be dragged into the cold void of snow and darkness and infertility?
But how does a millennia-old tradition connect with modern-day Halloween? Indulge me, and I'll show you.
The jack-o'-lantern. We don't think much about it. But where does this flame to fend off the horrors of the underworld tradition come from?
Yes, the Irish have the story of Stingy Jack, but I want to go further, deeper, all the way down through the pit of history to get to the origin of this tradition.
On Samhain, the ancient Irish believed that the magic fog they called Feth Fiada would lift from the world, revealing the invisible creatures and spirits that lived in an alternate reality from theirs. It was on this day that the IOC, or fairies as we know them today, would emerge from the barrows, tumuli, and mounds of the countryside. Also called this, this is just Sid? I think it's just Sid. The Sid, and general chaos would ensue. Children disappear, fairy rings form in moss, and the trees begin to look mighty unfriendly. These mounds that are said to house the spirits are old, very old. The mound of hostages on the hill of Tara is a tomb built about 5,000 years ago. Thing is, on the day Samhain is said to take place, the door of the tomb and the sun line up. This suggests that Samhain is older than the Celts' colonization of Ireland, which means these traditions are practically Neolithic. And that's an era we don't know much about, save for the bones and the monoliths left behind by those strange and forgotten people. Halloween might be almost as old as the wheel. To ward off these ancient spirits, the ancient Irish lit bonfires and would conduct ritual sacrifices. Animals? Yes. Humans? Probably not. Maybe. Let's talk about it anyway.
It was the ancient times, and human sacrifices were very in vogue. Everyone was doing it.
China, the city of Ur, the Incans, the Mayans, ancient Israel, the Aztecs, ancient Egyptians, Hawaii, the ancient Romans, the Mohe people, the Dahomey Kingdom, the Vikings, the Nazca Carthage, Mongolians, ancient Koreans, the Indus Valley people, India, Tanzania, and all of them did it. Why not the Celts too?
Heck, we even have Julius Caesar, Emperor of Rome and conqueror of Europe, who said this.
Oh, the Celts have figures of vast size, the limbs of which formed of ogres they fill with living men, which being set on fire, the men perish enveloped in flames. Ugh.
So how could it not be true that the Druids were doing the same icky grossness that everyone else was doing at the time?
Well, first of all, Rome was at war with the Celts, so maybe, perhaps, possibly, the stories he told were a bit, fictionalized to make the Celts look bad? Look, the guy had a war to run, and he couldn't have the Romans feeling sympathy for their conquered barbarian enemies. No. Not to mention Strabo. The Greek historian said that the Druids were cannibalistic, incestuous monsters. Tell me, Strabo, what other horrible things did they do? Did they eat babies and leave the toilet seat up? Did they burn people alive in giant bronze bull-shaped ovens? Did they force suicide on their own people? Commit ritual pedophilia? Declare women as property? And that women were just deformed men who got messed up at birth? Oh wait, that was the Greeks! Strabo!
So there's little evidence that the Druids committed human sacrifice. But that didn't stop Hollywood from getting their grubby, greedy little hands on the concept. Now we have an entire slew of movies dedicated to the topic. Movies and TV shows like
Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, The Wicker Man, Supernatural, Kill List, The Witch, The Hollow, Children of the Corn, Apostle.
Even the poor Swedes couldn't evade the evil cult "there's something wrong with this town" trope. Midsommar came out in 2019 and it was essentially The Wicker Man all over again. From what we can tell, Samhain was not some crazy horror show that all the movies subscribed to. It was just a method of coping with approaching winter seasons. A way for these people to celebrate before the dark months came. I mean, literally, the dark months were called dark months. The Scottish called it Andulach, which translates roughly to gloom or the depth of winter or darkness.
As you can see, these themes of darkness, evil spirits, and the transition to winter still resonate in our own celebrations of Halloween.
It's not hard to understand why these ancient peoples felt compelled to have these ancient traditions. Winter is dark and scary. Today, we're super safe people. We take every precaution to make sure that our little trick-or-treaters hopping around are all safe and sound. Back then, though, what we now call Halloween meant so much more. Those ancient Irish didn't have flashlights or thermal imaging to see the forest. They knew nothing about why winter came. And they certainly didn't have ghost debunking videos on YouTube to quell their superstitions. Beyond the small gold light of their fires lay an endless forest of mounds, trees, and darkness. A gaping maw ready to swallow any foolish child who dared venture too far. That's the meaning of Halloween to these people. To them, it was very real. And it was super terrifying. So next time you're following your child in your car, watching them hop and skip and jump across the streets from door to door, I want you to look past all of that. Look past the porch lights. Look past the children with their little flashlights. Look past your own ability to rationalize every little thing that you see. And look into the trees and the hedges and the bushes that cower and hide from the light of modern civilization. And I want you to stare into those dark woods for a moment. And I want you to think to yourself, could I handle this for more than 5 minutes? Could I handle this for an entire winter? Could I? If you sit and stare into those dark woods long enough, maybe you'll understand why these ancient Celts were so scared of the dark. Rest easy now. Rest in the knowledge that you're safe in your walls, far from those hills, far from the dark forests, from all the evil that lurks therein. You are far from the screams. You are far from the things that wish you harm. You're safe.